Ulrich sat on his bed, stunned, just staring at the walls of the dank attic room, thinking of the most miserable day he was having and hoping against hope that his parents were still alive and would yet rescue him from this horrid nightmare. When it started to get dark, Ulrich decided it would be best to go to sleep and put an end to this terrible day. He got undressed, all except his socks, because the bare floorboards of the attic were bitterly cold. Next, he pulled on his favorite aeroplane pajamas from his bag, then went and looked out of the tiny window. Ulrich was unsure of the time, but the sky was only just getting dark. He could still see the fast-flowing Uber River that ran at the bottom of the garden, and as he peered into the gathering darkness, he tried to remain positive. Life was tough enough when you have no knees, but the fact that his parents had probably been eaten and that he had been left in the care of the vile Mrs. Lipstick made it hard to stay positive. But Ulrich's mother had promised him that if he stayed positive, things would always get better. He shook his head, then went and sat on the bed to take off his socks. He was a master at touching his toes, and getting his socks off was one of the few tasks he found easy. Being that he had nowhere to put them, he threw them at the closet door. As soon as they landed on the floor, something in the closet rustled. Ulrich held his breath. There was a shuffling, and Ulrich's eyes went wide with terror. Then there was a snuffling. Finally, on this most terrible of days, things just got that little bit worse. The wardrobe door opened a bit. Then a black, furry claw came out slowly. Blindly feeling around the floor, it found Ulrich's socks, grabbed them, and shot back into the wardrobe. As Ulrich sat on the bed, mouth open wide in a silent scream, there came an awful, dreadful sound to poor Ulrich's ears. A sniff, sniff, sniff. Ulrich, in a moment of sheer panic, did something he could never have imagined doing. He screamed out for his great-aunt. "Mrs. Lipstick! Mrs. Lipstick!" There was a loud, "Ah!" Then the thump, thump, thump of Mrs. Lipstick storming up the stairs. The attic door flew open, and Mrs. Lipstick rushed in, her face almost as red as her horrid thin lips.
"I told you, dirty little boys should not be seen or heard. It was rule number 1, and there are only 2 rules. Are you stupid as well as disgusting?"
But there's a monster in the closet," Ulrich stammered.
"What? There is no such thing as monsters,"
she bellowed. She stomped over to the closet and flung open the door. Ulrich pointed in terror at the back. A large, black eye blinked, looking up at Mrs. Lipstick in surprise. The monster was just sitting there, sniffing poor Ulrich's socks.
"See!"
Mrs. Lipstick screamed, not even bothering to look in the closet. But, Ulrich spluttered, furiously pointing. Mrs. Lipstick slammed the door shut and grabbed Ulrich by his aeroplane pajamas, pulling him close to her putrid mouth. Ulrich was looking straight at her bright red lips and yellow teeth as she spoke in a hiss.
"If you disturb me just one more time, I will throw you out the window. Then I will no longer have to put up with your stench."
She pushed him back onto the bed, turned, and stormed out, slamming the door shut. Poor Ulrich. He was trying to stay positive, but this was getting to be too much.